Good evening, everyone. It is now 5:01 p.m. I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Monte Union High School District for January 6, 2021. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Dr. Zuniga, if you will take the roll call.
Yes, thank you. We'll start off with member Mrs. Estella Torres-Segrest. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, present.
Thank you. Member Mr. Padilla.
Here.
Member Mr. Diaz.
Present.
Member Mr. Salcedo.
Here.
And member Mr. Briones.
Present.
And we will end with our student member, Ms. Zilavi Palacios.
Present.
All present. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zuniga. Ms. Palacios, if you'd like to lead us in the flag salute today.
Everyone, please stand up. Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. You may all be seated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Palacios. At this time, I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved by Mr. Diaz, seconded by Mr. Salcedo. Any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Zuniga, if you'll take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Member Torres-Segrest.
Aye.
Member Padilla.
Aye.
Member Diaz.
Aye.
Member Mr. Salcedo.
Aye.
And member Mr. Briones.
Aye.
5-0.
Thank you. Motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 2, consider approval of minutes for the December 9th, 2020 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Salcedo, seconded by Mr. Padilla. Any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Zuniga, if you'll take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Member Ms. Torres-Segrest.
Abstain. I was not there.
Thank you. Member Mr. Padilla.
Aye.
Member Mr. Diaz.
Aye.
Member Mr. Salcedo.
Yeah.
And Mr. Briones.
Aye.
Not 5-0.
Thank you. Motion is carried unanimously. Item number 3, consider approval of minutes for the December 16th, 2020 special meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Salcedo, seconded by Mrs. Torres-Segrest. Any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Zuniga, if you'll take a roll call vote.
Yeah, before I go ahead, I want to be clear. The last count was 4-0-1 with one extension from Mrs. Torres-Segrest. I believe I said 5-0, so that is incorrect.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Go ahead.
Regarding the December 16th, we'll take a vote at this time. Member Mrs. Torres-Segrest.
Aye.
Member Mr. Padilla.
Aye.
Member Mr. Diaz.
Aye.
Member Mr. Salcedo.
Aye.
And Mr. Briones.
Aye.
All right, we have a 5-0 count.
Thank you. The motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to public comments. I have one public comment that was submitted tonight by Mr. Jeff Morris, teacher at South Armani High School. Mr. Morris writes, sorry, let me bring it up. As a classroom teacher, says to the Armani Union High School District School Board. As a classroom teacher, I have seen the effects of the COVID pandemic firsthand. Last semester, I had 3 students that were infected with COVID. Several others had immediate family members infected. One student told me that she had an aunt that might not survive. We just started spring semester, and one student shared with me on the first day that he was infected with COVID. Even with the vaccines, the situation would not be improving very soon. Therefore, I call upon all of you as board members, along with Superintendent Zuniga, to begin taking actions immediately to try our best to get students and staff safely back in the classroom in the fall of 2021. This is your most important responsibility. Since health experts are predicting that we may not have herd immunity to the virus until August of 2021, I urge all of you to push the fall semester back to after Labor Day as it used to be in the past. We need to buy as much time as we can to get students back in the classroom on day one. Superintendent Zuniga should start the conversation immediately with Superintendent Garcia of the Almani City School District to make this happen. Almani Union High School District board members should contact Almani City School District board members and get this conversation going as well to bring the two districts together on this decision. These are serious times, and you all need to take serious action now instead of waiting until it's too late. You can make this a reality if you start working now. Summer break will last longer, but that gives students who are currently struggling more opportunities and time to attend online summer school and get help in summer online programs that can help students succeed. The graduation rate will benefit from this, as many of our current students are either earning D's and F's. Summer school can actually last for 3 to 4 week sessions, as they should be, instead of 2 week sessions, which are not very effective. Also, by delaying the school year, there is a better chance of students being able to participate in fall sports and other extracurricular activities. Please do the smart thing and work on this now. If students can handle remote learning, they can easily adapt to moving the school year back. Thank you, Jeff Morris. Let me just make sure that there weren't any other comments submitted before the form was closed.
I don't believe so, Mr. Bruce.
Okay, that is the only comment that was submitted online. Dr. Zuniga, were there any other comments submitted?
No, there was not. That was the only one.
Okay, thank you. So then that concludes public comments. Moving on to communication from our union representatives. Is there a representative from EMUEA present today?
We don't have anyone from EMUA, but Ms. Bazil did reach out to me. She was not able to attend, but she wanted to wish you guys a healthy, happy, productive, sane, and successful new year. And that's all she had for this evening. And she wanted to make sure that I relay that message to you. I don't think Mrs. Chambers is with us this evening as well from CSCA.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zuniga. Please give my thanks to Ms. Bazil and thank her for those words. Moving on to information, presentations, recognitions. We have a school site instructional report. I'll turn it over to Dr. Zuniga at this time.
Yeah, thank you, President Briones. As our tradition is, this year we are featuring school sites every other month. This evening, I have the pleasure of introducing our school principal, Mr. Jose Marquez, along with his district administration team that is here with us this evening. I don't know if there's any other staff members that are present this evening, but I know that there are some key folks that took part in this instructional report to prepare the opportunity to showcase some of the current programs and some of the planning that took place over the fall during the summer to ensure that the distance learning at Monte High School was successful over the fall semester, and also the support of classroom teachers was there with the help of our teachers on special assignment, school staff, as well as district staff. So I'm going to head over to Mr. Marquez now and hand it over to him so he can introduce everyone. And I know we have a presentation this evening already intact for Monte High School. So Mr. Marquez, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Zuniga. Yeah, we just wanted to showcase tonight some of the student engagement activities that we have going on at our school at Mount View. But before we go and get started with that, I'd just like to introduce our, I think we have an amazing admin team right now, and Oscar Gomez and Allende Palmas Racho. And I don't know if anyone is aware, but, you know, we were all born in different decades. So, you know, so we have a good understanding of what we're about. You know, we understand of what's out there, what's in the past and what's in the future. And so we got a good thing going on right now. So just wanted to share that with everyone. And let's get going with our engagement presentation, and you'll see some of the great things that are going on. We did have to actually talk about and tone down everything that we wanted to show because there was so much time. We did go over a 10-minute presentation, but it was all because we felt it was important to share. We got a good team effort throughout the school, not only from our admin, but we have a great team with Jennifer Brannon and Dr. Chris Lewis. And we also have, you know, Nikki Stanley, our librarian as part of the instructional team, and we got great support from from Mr. John Mann. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and we'll get started. All right. There we go. I don't. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
While Mr. Steelman is reloading the presentation, is there anything that you want to share, Mr. Marquez?
Yeah, you know, one of our focus areas is student engagement. And really our goal is just to do our best to support not only our teachers so that we can get them better prepared and get them to be able to engage our students a little better.
Good evening, distinguished board, Superintendent Dr. Edward Zuniga, and Cabinet. My name is Jose Marquez, and I'm the principal of Mountain View High School. Tonight, we'll be sharing with you what we do here at MVHS to support our students through this very challenging time. We believe that part of our job is to provide our school community a comprehensive, well-planned instructional program that focuses on supporting our students academically and emotionally. What you'll see here tonight is how we conduct this endeavor through the very talented team comprised of our instructional coach, Ms. Jennifer Brannon, our EL TOSA, Dr. Christopher Lewis, and our amazing administration team of Mr. Allende Palmas Taracho and Mr. Oscar Gomez. Enjoy this presentation, and now I would like to hand it over to Mr. Palmas Taracho. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marquez. At Mountain View High School, our staff has been working extremely hard this year to support our students during distance learning. And today's presentation is going to focus on three key areas. The areas we'll be discussing today are how we've been working to support and empower our teachers, how we've worked on supporting families and community engagement, and supporting students outside of class. Our first area of support was about supporting and empowering our teachers, because how best to support our students if not to make sure that their teachers are equipped with the tools and trainings necessary to help our students learn in this environment. Towards that end, one of the first things that we did as a leadership team was our Viking Leadership Committee, composed of our department chairs and our leadership staff throughout our campus, met to develop a school-wide collaboration and PD calendar. It was very important for us from the very beginning to align our efforts school-wide and within the district's PD offerings to maximize our morning sessions and avoid conflicts between PD time and collaboration time for our course-alike teams. In developing this calendar, we set out times on Wednesdays and Fridays that could be used now for professional development staff-wide, as well as then also providing regular times on Tuesday and Thursday for our course-alike teams to meet and collaborate. Next, we worked on developing a framework for rolling out professional development in a holistic manner. It was very important that our PD this year was very focused, that it was holistic, and as far as being very thoughtful of the process teachers would need to implement said trainings, and that the trainings were always very practical for our teachers. Thus, we developed this framework where Fridays, we considered it to be our strategy trainings, where we would roll out a concept or model a concept or particular strategies, such as how to create opportunities for student interaction, and then follow that up the following Wednesday with what we call Edtech Wednesdays, which is when we would show our staff basically the nuts and bolts of how to implement that training. And this could look like, in regards to creating opportunities for student interaction, how do you create the jam boards and breakout sessions that we modeled at last Friday's session? This was then followed up with the idea that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, our course-alike teams could meet, collaborate, share ideas for how this would look like in their content areas, and then a practice applying it to their lessons. Fridays that followed could then focus on either doing a reflection activity as a group, taking a deeper dive into some of these strategies, looking at possible practice time and collaboration efforts, or ways to build and extend those efforts. Now that we had our framework, the next important thing to discuss was what was going to be our focus regarding professional development this year. There are a great many things that we as a staff could work on, but to be very intentional and to try to really implement something with fidelity, we decided that as a group, student engagement had to be our area that we were going to hit over and over again. And for engagement, we went as far as to get very specific to say engagement meant interaction. How are we building in opportunities for students to contribute ideas and regularly check for understanding? And interaction could be ways students were interacting with interactive content, ways that we were providing opportunities for students to interact with their teachers, and ways that we were providing students to interact with one another. And so towards that end, we developed a lot of trainings that would get to that idea of how are we going to provide these opportunities. And you can see that we moved in from the general to getting very particular with how we could use technology tools to allow this, to how could we support our English learners in their interactions, and then how could we support even our special education students to have these interactions. Our goal throughout this process has been to develop responsive professional development for our teachers based on their needs. And that's been getting regular feedback from our leadership team and from our staff in general through surveys and jam boards and at our meetings. Our goal has been to get topics that are important to them, to find out if there are ways to better our PD structure. And this has meant sometimes also needing to pause and to bring in other topics that were very important at the time, such as attendance procedures or staff wellness checks. Because of this, we feel our PD has resonated with our staff. We have about 2/3 that regularly attend every Wednesday and Friday, and that's usually because many of them are attending other PD for their content areas. So to give you more information about what these PDs have actually looked like, it's my pleasure to now introduce to you our instructional coach, Jennifer Brennan.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Brannon, the instructional coach at Mountain View High School, and we are going to talk about our MVHS PD Fridays. As the instructional coach at Mountain View for 8 years, I have learned time and time again that effective professional learning must be responsive, experiential, and actionable. The instructional support team has been responsive to the needs of our teachers and staff, needs that have been identified by them as opposed to us prescribing PD topics onto them. Our professional learning is also experiential. We must practice what we preach. We must model the strategies we want teachers to use in their classes. And also our professional learning has been actionable. Teachers take away things that they can use immediately in their classes. These are quotes taken directly from our teachers and staff about our PD structure. They appreciate that we have taken regular readings on the staff to see what they need and what would be most timely for them. They appreciate that they have the time to practice and to fail and try new things, and that our time is spent in a mix of instruction and practice time. Teachers in this time have asked questions like, how do we have our students engage more? How do we plan with language in mind to support our English learners? What do special ed accommodations look like in this time of digital learning? And what do we do when we get nothing but crickets, when it feels like we're talking to ourselves in our live class sessions? Teachers have also expressed the need to build resilience, right, to combat burnout and demoralization. So our MVHS PD Fridays have addressed these concerns explicitly, and here are some of the topics that we have covered in the past. Our sessions are also experiential. We ask teachers to participate as learners. They respond to poll questions, they participate in discussions in breakout rooms, they do Q&A. We ask teachers to reflect on demo lessons, and then we ask them to see how we have planned our PD sessions and how we have embedded meaningful interactions throughout our sessions so that they do the same with their lesson plans. Our structure is also actionable. So at the end of our sessions, we always ask teachers to complete an exit ticket where we ask them to articulate what is their next step. How are they going to take this strategy and employ it to their content area, to their classes? And we also ask them to come back and share out how they have implemented. This slide is taken from a choir teacher who put her students in breakout rooms and gave them a structured protocol to discuss a piece of music. And with all things, we tell our teachers that if you want something to succeed in your classes, you must plan for it, structure it, give students the resources and tools, model it, and also hold students accountable. The same principles apply to teachers. If we want teachers to succeed, we must give them all of those things. And very rarely are all these pieces in place the first time you try something. So that's why our PD structure includes time for collaboration and practice and the resources that they need. And Dr. Chris Lewis, our English learner TOSA and our TTL, is going to talk about how we address those needs in our Edtech Wednesdays and the other resources we provide. Thank you.
Good evening, board members and district administrators. I'm going to share some ways that we have provided technical support and resources for Mountain View faculty and staff. There are 3 primary ways we have done this, which include creating a distance learning website, hosting Edtech Wednesday sessions, and publishing a weekly newsletter. First is our distance learning website. The site includes essential information, resources, and videos to help teachers manage a digital learning environment. We provide links to shared Google Docs and templates to help teachers plan. We also include a how-to section where faculty and staff can find videos and PDFs to help with the use of Google applications or other digital tools. Second, on Wednesdays, we host an EdTech session. We review the content from the Friday PD that shows step-by-step how to use the digital tools that were shared. Additionally, we provide any updates or changes to programs in the Google Workspace. This is time for teachers to ask questions, to practice using, and to share about the ways they have used various tech tools in their classes. There is a slide deck that teachers can review and see screenshots and reminders for the use of tools like Google Meet, Jamboard, and breakout rooms. Lastly, every Friday, the instructional coach Jennifer Brannon and myself publish a weekly newsletter. This newsletter includes 3 main parts. First, a recap of any PD sessions that occurred during the week. Second, a section called Do Yourself a Favor, where we provide tech tips and tricks. And last, we provide any important updates or information about ways to support English learners. The newsletter includes active links to articles, websites, podcasts, and videos. The newsletters are archived on the distance learning website so they can be reviewed at any time. Next, we have Mr. Gomez to share about supporting families and community engagement.
Good evening, distinguished board members. My name is Oscar Gomez, and I am the Assistant Principal of Student Services at Mountain View High School. Today, I would like to talk about supporting families and community engagement during distance learning. Mountain View High School has created a 3-tier system of interventions for our students. Tier 1 support consists of the MVHS student request form. Paraeducators support teachers by making phone calls to students who need additional academic support. We've been able to monitor during fall quarter 1 and fall quarter 2 at-promise students who need additional support, either through tutoring or other support services on campus during distance learning. Active communication with parents and students is a key component of distance learning. Parent technology workshops have also been focusing on how we could get parents to navigate distance learning. Our community liaison has been working with the district and our parents throughout the fall quarter and will continue during the spring quarter, providing workshops for parents to navigate distance learning and support their students. On the college application side, our college and career coordinator has been working with parents and students in developing workshops for college applications and financial aid. We will really be moving towards the spring semester, ensuring that every student completes their FAFSA application by the March deadline. Tier 2 support has been the focus of guidance counselors. Guidance counselors have been providing intervention for academic and social emotional needs during distance learning. Counselors meet with at-promise students with academic concerns or social emotional needs. They have created daily Zoom office hours for student and parent communication. The Student Service Department also has monthly cost meetings to identify at-promise students and coordinate mental health resources and strengthen community partnerships through our monthly meetings. The attendance office has been working directly with the district attorney's office in identifying students with potential at-risk chronic absenteeism. Students who are meeting the minimum threshold will be placed on attendance contract to provide early interventions through the SART process. Our home visits have also been in coordination with the district attorney's office to provide support for families in our community. Our Tier 3 support intensive services focus on individual services for our most at-risk students. The SST process, the DARB hearing process for attendance and chronic absenteeism, Section 504 plans, DDA mediation for attendance, IEPs, and mental health and counseling wraparound services at the local and county level. I would now like to pass it over to Mr. Allende Palma-Saracho.
Thank you. And finally, we wanted to end by showing some of the ways that we are supporting our students outside of class. The first way is through our tutoring. We offer tutoring after school on Saturdays from 8 to 12 noon. And also, we're very proud that we are offering an ELD-specific tutoring lab. This is a lab that we created just to support our ELD students. It happens before and after class, and it's translated by our ELD paraeducators so that our students can get more personal one-on-one support in this environment. To encourage our students to take advantage of these tutoring opportunities and also for rewarding those who are inspiring greatness through their grades and dedication, we initiated what we are calling the Viking Rewards Program. It's a program where our students will earn points from attending tutoring, getting a 2.0 to a 4.0 GPA, and they earn these points every grading period. And they'll be able to redeem these points on our Viking Rewards Day and select an item or items of their choosing. This information is now on our website, and students can check out all the different items that they could be working towards. And they range from socks, beanies, sweaters, hats, hydro flasks, all the way to earbuds and more. And the great part about it is that they also can check out their points list so that every grading period they can see all their hard work and all the points that they are accumulating so that they could then decide which items they'd like to purchase. So with that, that concludes our presentation for today. We thank you very much for your time and look forward to any questions you may have. Thank you.
And I think just in conclusion, I think if you kind of look at what we're doing, it's all about collaboration, whether it's instruction or academic or interventions or mental wellness or student support. It's all about collaboration and what we're trying to do for our kids and our teachers and our community. So that's the one word, and collaboration also with our districts. So I just wanted to finish off with that, and if you guys have any questions, all three of us are here to answer them.
Yes, Mr. Marquez, I think this is a beautiful program. And one of my questions is, how is the attendance, the daily attendance of the students in these classes? Is better than the face-to-face, or the students are less? Or are you having a kind of direction of how is the attendance to the classes?
You know, our attendance, we started off pretty rough, but I think it was more procedural, more than record keeping more than anything. I think after a few weeks, our attendance actually did improve. We're not as high as we'd like to be, and we're not as high as we'd like to be in our academics or anything else. But I think part of our goal is to keep working together and keep improving it. One of the reasons we brought up the Viking Rewards program is to motivate our kids to not only go to school every day, right, because they get that support, but but also motivate our kids to be engaged a little more, to raise their grades, because we still recognize our kids academically through their honor roll, but then we reward them through our Viking Rewards program.
Yeah, because the program, I really am very happy to see how you are working with the students and giving your best for them to get enthusiasm, and you are working really hard. I love the way that Mr. Saracho is working with the students, and especially to have parents involved too. And this is very important to get enthusiasm from the students, since they are in an environment that is so nice, their own home, and learning, I think that's the way that they can learn better. I really congratulate you from this program. I really like it. It's very hard, especially the attendance of the students, and at this age it's really hard, but I like the way that you are working with the students. I hope that you keep working hard and have success.
Thank you. Thank you. It is challenging, but as I mentioned before, it's all about working together, and it's all about working as a school community to move our school forward.
Thank you, Mr. Marquez. Just a reminder to members, please wait to be recognized by the chair before making your comments or asking your questions. Thank you, Mrs. Torres de Segrist, for your comments to Mr. Marquez. Any other member would have any questions or comments regarding the presentation?
Yes, Mr. Briones, I would like to comment if I may.
Go ahead, Mr. Padilla.
Yes, I just want to thank this administrative team that we currently have at Mountain View High School. I love going to Mountain View High School. You know, whenever I would visit there, I could always feel the spirit of the students. It was a special place for me to go, and I'm glad to hear that you guys are getting very creative. I hear the collaboration, and I see the collaboration with you know, the instructional coach, Mr. Palma Saracho, with you know, the whole team. It's just good to see the collaboration, the communication, the creativity of that point system for students to earn those rewards. That really spoke to me, and then just the creativity. So you know, in education, we always talk about the 4 C's, and this instructional program addresses those 4 C's. Great collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking for our students, and also for the staff. So kudos to the Mountain View High School staff. I'm very, very impressed, and makes me really happy that the students are getting a quality program, and that I heard also from that you guys are addressing the needs of English language learners. And I'm glad that in your newsletter that it's an active link where teachers can go and look at it at their leisure. But the fact that you guys are discussing how to best meet the needs of English language learners also spoke to me. So thank you for tonight's presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. Any other comments, Mr. Salcedo or Mr. Diaz?
Yeah, if I can add, Mr. Briones. I just wanted to congratulate the Mountain View team. From what I saw, I know it was only a short presentation, but I can see the depth, I can see the collaboration, I can see the details in what is going into training our teachers, providing the professional development. I noticed I picked up on a couple key words, one of them being being allowed to fail, right? And especially during this time that everything is so new. We do need that time. Educators need that time to be allowed to fail, to make mistakes, and to learn from them, right? So giving them, carving out that time for them is super important. But I've always said that, you know, it's that trinity, right? That triangle. In order for a community to succeed for our students, you need the parents, you need the school, and you need the students on board. So I'm glad to see that that plan has all of those 3 key ingredients. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salcedo. Any comments from Mr. Diaz?
Yeah, thank you, President Briones, and thank you all for making the time to present to us today. I really like the encouragement, particularly the incentives that were presented to students. I'm wondering, Mr. Marquez and team, if you could speak a little bit more to some of your experience or engagement with parents, and maybe some of the qualitative comments that you think are relevant or that you'd like to uplift to the board in terms of things you most often hear from parents at Mountain View High School.
Go ahead, Mr. Gomez.
Good evening, board. I mean, I think one of the main components too is staying connected with our parents. Our parents, you know, are struggling with their kids being home 24/7. You know, and they're reaching out to us. For me, on my end, a lot of social emotional components on how we could do, you know, can we better our students during this period of time. As far as attendance is concerned, one of the key components is why we're working with the district attorney's office. It's not in a negative way. It's working with one of their assistant and district attorneys, Ms. Rivera, to really start educating the parents about, you know, essentially what attendance means, and especially at this time of their life in education when they're in high school, and the importance of these next 4 years to get them to graduate. So that's been kind of the key component of the district attorney working with us and building that relationship with our CWA so we could provide early intervention. But I think one of the biggest frustrations, particularly in our part of our community, is still internet connectivity and making sure that the students stay connected. And, you know, many of our kids are dealing with multiple siblings in the same home, and connectivity becomes an issue, you know, at the home and depending on area. So that thing, you know, navigating that, but I think we've done a great job with the MiFis that we've provided. We've been fixing the ones that we need. Our parents know that they could bring a laptop at any given time to repair it. So we've communicated all those open hours that even though we're in distance learning, we're still available for the community and our parents. And I think that's key. They have that relationship that they could call us, and they're set times and people that they could communicate on our campus to get things done in a timely manner.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I would underscore when it comes to the parent communication is I have to give a really big shout out to both our teachers and our classified staff who have really just stepped up and shown just how critical they are to that process. Our classified staff, one of the first things we did too was dividing all our paraeducators and tutors to help specific departments during the year, so that first hour of the day and the last hour of the day of their schedule, what they tend to do is look at the support request forms from our teachers. So when they start seeing a student who's fallen off and hasn't shown up for a few days, or all of a sudden isn't turning in assignments, the teachers have worked to input a request for a phone call to be made home. And our paraeducators, who a lot of them are bilingual, have been just really key in helping us make those personal phone calls. So it's not just a computer call, but a personal phone call, either in the morning or sometimes in the afternoon, or some try to.
Uh-oh.
I lose connection.
There you go. You're back.
So I really want to commend them, because, you know, that's a piece that sometimes doesn't always get seen. And I just wanted to give a lot of props to our classified staff, because they've been huge, and they make so many phone calls each day to just try to keep parents updated and let them know, like, yes, he did click on the participation question, but we are having a problem with, you know, Jose, that he didn't turn in any assignments this week. Trying to help out has been really key to challenge, help our families.
Thank you, Mr. PS. Unfortunately, some of your internet is choppy. I don't know if you're also in Monte, but you cut off there, but I think I got the gist of what you said.
Yeah. You know, go ahead. Yes, I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, one of the things that we were very intentional in regards when we were talking about what we could do to motivate our kids and the rewards we got there for them. And we were very intentional in trying to get them to get motivated to get that Viking gear that they need, that they may not have the resources to have. So that's why we supported our kids with socks and sweatshirts and beanies, things to help them keep them warm, but also give them the spirit of the school and maybe support them in these tough times. So there was a lot of thinking that went in between all of us and what we chose, and we chose them for a purpose, not only because it looked good on them for the school, but because we were supporting them in a different way as well that may not be seen. But you know, when if the kids need to stay warm, they have a Viking sweatshirt to keep them warm, or a beanie. So we were looking at it from all kinds of aspects that way.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing. I appreciate all the hard work y'all are doing on behalf of Armani High School District families.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. I just wanted to share. I'm really happy to hear about the fact that the experiential learning is part of the program there at Mountain View, because I think that lived experience for the educators as well as the students really goes a long way. So I'm happy to see that that's been incorporated. And to echo Mr. Diaz's comments about being intentional with how you approach this, I think that really speaks to how we handle instruction and support services here in the district. We don't have a one-size-fits-all philosophy. Each one of our campuses has a personality of its own. We all know that. And I think the staff and the faculty on each campus, the administration teams, they know what that personality is and what the needs are. And I'm happy to see that it's being tailored to the population that you're serving. So thank you for that. And to the instructional coaches, I just want to say thank you so much for your hard work. Having worked with some of you in the past, I know the level of work and also the quality of work that goes into what you do to support the staff and the faculty there on campus. It goes a long way, and it does not go unnoticed. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. So with that, Mr. Marquez, if you or your staff have any closing comments or remarks.
Just thank you, everyone, for your support. Without your support, we wouldn't be able to do what we've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you again, Mr. Marquez, Mr. Gomez, and Mr. Palmasaracho. Dr. Zuniga.
Thank you, Mr. Briones. We can move on to the next item at this point, but I do want to recognize the work that the team put together. You can see that the video was obviously a lot behind it, and you can see Mr. Mann, our teacher under the visual arts, is just an amazing job with those students, and I'm sure the kids could have produced the same quality video. So that's how important some of the key staff members are at Mountain View High School, and not only our admin team, but the instructional coaches, the TOSAs, obviously the people that behind the scenes are putting this together. So on behalf of all of us, we appreciate Mountain View High School's work in preparing for tonight's program and presentation. It was very impressive and valuable to our gain knowledge and support for you guys. So thank you.
Thank you all again. At this time, we'll move on to our next presentation. It's the Armani Union High School District State of Technology presentation. Dr. Zuniga, I'll hand it over back to you.
Yeah, our next presentation out of the two that we had this evening for you is the actual update for you on technology. We've had several conversations about the benefit that we had when we started the 1-2-1 program a year prior to the pandemic, and how much that has helped with just expediting some things that we were prepared for when we had to dismiss students to our distance learning program. And with the support of the Information Services Department, spearheaded by Mr. Steelman, just the amazing job that we have put together and processed through various components of the initiative program for technology. You also recall that a couple of years back, we did a FICMAT study on some of the changes that needed to happen for technology in order for Armani High School District to advance. And now we are one of the leaders within the San Gabriel Valley in technology and innovative programs that have been established here from the ground up. So I do want to commend the department and also Mr. Steelman, who's going to be presenting you an update of the state of technology for our district at this point. So I know you've been with us every month, Mr. Steelman, behind the scenes again. And again, we appreciate your support to ensure that our meetings run efficiently. So just to start off with that, we thank you for that. And I know that you have some information to share this evening, so welcome.
Mr. Steelman, sorry to throw a wrench in all this, but I've been getting text messages that folks aren't getting any audio on the YouTube stream. Thank you, Mr. Steelman, for your very in-depth presentation. At this time, if there's any questions from the board or comments.
I'd like to comment.
Mr. Briones?
I'll start with Mr. Padilla, then I'll go with Mr. Salcedo. Go ahead, Mr. Padilla.
Yes, I would just like to give kudos, public kudos to Mr. Steelman. Mr. Steelman and I have not always seen eye to eye when it comes to technology. And I can remember very distinctly back when Ms. Talamantes was still on the school board. And most recently, he conducted a survey that I was very vocal about. And I remember it because I even talked to Dr. Zuniga about it, on how I disagreed on the data that he had collected at the time that showed that, so many of our households in the Armani Union High School District that they did have access to Wi-Fi and internet and a computer. And I remember disagreeing it, very, very much so. And I told Mr. Dr. Zuniga, I said, look, I don't need a survey to know the needs of this community. I've lived here my entire life. And I can tell you, by being in the trenches in my day job, that there might be a lot of students that have very fancy phones, even fancier than many of us carry as teachers or educators. But I can tell you that need was definitely there of them not having a Wi-Fi connection at their home. And that really came to light when we went into this pandemic. And then it goes to the comment that Mr. Steelman made today that, a certain number of people said that they had no Wi-Fi. But then when the pandemic hit, they quickly realized that you couldn't write your term papers and you couldn't do your homework on your phone. It was very difficult. And so I'm glad that we moved forward with this, the project 10 million. I remember at the time, it was only the 1 million project. It was prior to Mr. Briones, prior to Mr. Diaz, even before Mr. Salcedo got back on the board. And I remember that I wanted this program so bad, and Mr. Steelman would balk, and he did not want it, and he did not want it. And finally, we continued to pressure, and we got it. We got the 1 million project, and now we're up to the project 10 million. So I'd just like to publicly thank him for all of the innovation, all the stuff that he's brought to the district. And although we don't always agree on everything, I must give credit where credit is due. And so I give you credit, Mr. Steelman, and you know that I have always been very critical of technology and, all the problems that it can cause. Sometimes it causes more problems than it solves, but I will publicly give you credit for bringing our district forward and being so innovative in the San Gabriel Valley. So thank you publicly. I appreciate what you do, and keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. Mr. Salcedo?
Thank you, Mr. Briones. I just wanted to comment that, in just the period that we're in right now, it's, for things to be changing so fast. I mean, someone in your position, you can't really rest on your laurels, right? And so always thinking 2 steps ahead, and so I appreciate the flexibility that Mr. Stillman brings and his foresight. And just thank you for what you've done to help our students succeed during this pandemic. It's not just teachers and administrators at the school site. It takes a huge team, and you're a big part of it. So thank you so much, sir.
Mr. Briones, may I have a question, please?
Yes,
Yes.
Mr. Salcedo. Go ahead, Ms. Torres de Segrist.
Mr. Stillman, thank you. Thank you so much for putting our students at the high level of the education in the 21st century. When they go to college or to university, or when they go to other students, they are always going to have the knowledge of this great training that you have been giving to them and to our teachers, because everybody is learning when you are becoming a teacher of all of us. I remember too, when you started a long time ago with us, I thought that it was going to be very hard, but you were very patient with all of us, and especially with our students. And now the results are incredible good. Thank you so much, and keep it up the good job, because our students need you a lot. Thank you, Mr. Stillman. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Torres de Segrist. Mr. Diaz, any comments or questions?
Yes, President Briones. Thank you, Mr. Stillman, for all your work. I'm wondering, with respect to repairs or having to replace computers or hotspots, what's been the experience? Have you seen it a lot, a little bit? What's that been like? Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I love that part of the program that they get to keep it for, after they graduate from high school to use for college or other means. So thank you for providing information and thank you for all your work.
And Eric, just an update. I received a text that evidently on the YouTube stream, they can hear everybody but you. So and I do have a couple questions. You mentioned moving a lot of things from paper to digital, and I know that makes everything much more accessible, and it makes it easier to track. Say, for example, the digital permission slips, are those in multiple languages? And then regarding the tutorials that you provide to parents who need it, how is that utilized, and what's been the utilization by those parents? And related to that question, what's been the utilization of those loaner Chromebooks for families who need them? And are those digital resources available in multiple languages as well? Thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions, actually, forgot. Our student trustee, Ms. Palacios, do you have any comments or questions for Mr. Steelman?
Just also want to commend Mr. Steelman for all the work that he's doing, because I, as a student, benefit from all of this, and I see these changes happening, and I got access to Chromebook, and I got access to MiFi's, and I think that I can speak on behalf of all the students when I say that it's had a really positive impact on my learning, and as I'm sure it's had a really positive impact on the learning of other students. So thank you.
And just lastly, thank you, Mr. Steelman, and please thank your staff for all the hard work that they put in every single day. Having been in the trenches with a lot of them for the better part of a decade, I completely understand what it is that they go through day in, day out. Having been out of the IT field now for 3 years, from one day to the next, things change, and obviously, from 1 year to 3 years, things have changed. And sometimes I'm still the resident tech person in my office, the board office, and sometimes I have to sit down and read a tutorial or two to kind of get up to speed on what needs to be done to get something working. So thank you again for all the hard work that you put in and your diligent and dedicated efforts to our district. So thank you again for your presentation. So at this time, we're going to move on to our oral and written communication, starting with our student trustee member, Ms. Lali Palacios.
I just want to wish everyone a happy new year. Feliz Año Nuevo. I know that it is extremely hard to look forward to a year that has started in such a difficult state, but I can only hope that you are provided a renewed sense of strength in pushing forward and holding on. Last year was an extremely challenging year for our students, and for their constant efforts to continue working and continue studying and being the absolute best they can be. I and the rest of the board are well aware of the pressures our students face on a day-to-day basis, but I hope you are also aware that the decisions we make at these meetings and outside of these meetings are our best efforts to provide you with a stable education in such an unstable time. I thank our parents and our students for being patient throughout last year and into this year. A lot of changes are mobilizing as we speak, and often these changes are out of our control and in the hands of the LA County Department of Public Health and our state government. I know how frustrating it can be to have to face constant changes, and trust me when I say that sometimes we feel it too on our side. But with that being said, we couldn't be more grateful for your support and your receptiveness to our virtual events and to our drive-through events. I am very excited to start anew. The Student Advisory Council and I did not meet for the month of December because it was such a short month. We wanted to give the students the time to enjoy the holidays, so I don't have any resolution updates, but I'm excited to see them again in our upcoming virtual meeting that will be taking place on January 25th at 2 p.m. Dr. Zuniga, some of our district directors, and I will be having a virtual meeting this Friday to work on our district mental health campaign, so I'm excited to begin that. I'm also working with CASC Region 9 to help them with their upcoming spring conference. This conference will be like a mini SAVE. SAVE is a conference that focuses on having students identify problems they've seen within our state's education system and develop proposals, which they then present to the California State Board of Education. The upcoming spring conference will be a mock SAVE conference. I'm working to get our students involved with this conference because I think it will be a great learning opportunity for them. I will have more details on this conference next board meeting, as CASC and I will be meeting this month to discuss the conference. These are all my updates for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Palacios, for your update. Moving on to Superintendent Communications, Dr. Zuniga.
Yes, good evening again. I do have a presentation for you, really more information. Just about a couple of weeks ago, I provided you with a lot of information related to our local data regarding COVID-19, the district actions over the fall, and what we were facing over the last couple of months. My focus this evening is more specific to what has happened since December 9th over the winter break and where we're at now, related to some of the recent actions taken by the federal government, our state legislators, our governor itself, and how does that impact schools, specifically K-12 schools. Lots has happened with some of the changes through Assembly Bill over January 1st, 2021. Happy New Year, by the way. And I'm here just to provide you a glimpse about some of the things that we're learning, that we're going to be facing over the spring semester, and hopefully get through successfully in the next couple of months. So we'll go ahead and get on to the next slide. I want to start off first with the COVID relief package. As you know, that President Trump was able to finally come to grips and sign the actual relief package. I know that there was a couple of road bumps before he signed it, but nevertheless, we are able to move forward. For K-12 schools, there will be about 57 billion. California will receive about 6.8 billion of that 57 million overall. I understand that there's still some of the logistics worked out between the federal government and the states, which the states would need to apply, work through, and get that funding to schools. But 90% has to be distributed to the LEAs, specifically through Title I funding allocations as well. The estimated amount for the district at this point, and this is just estimated based on the actual EdSource document that I had researched, that would be about 10,342,081 based on our ADA of 8264. So that's important for us to recognize and understand. And though it's not firm as far as the amount, I spoke to Mr. Norton earlier today, just kind of say, hey, here's our numbers I'm hearing. What do you think about this? And we feel that it might be a little lower, but nevertheless, it's around that ballpark about what we anticipate and looked at. As you know, that this comes with a tag, and there's actually focusing on a couple of things to support schools, or specifically our schools under learning loss. The second one is improve school facilities infrastructure to reduce the risk of transmitting COVID-19 on campus or at these facilities, and also to purchase educational technology. As you can see, things that we had to adapt to and move forward with this year, just for technology to address distance learning. So those are the three focus areas for the actual relief package for K-12 education at this point for the new federal government package. Next slide. Now, we also have learned a bit about governor's proposal about the Safe Schools Plan for All. And we know that for the majority, this will be a focus initially on the elementary level or our primary levels from TK to 2 to start in phase 1 over the next month. And also moving forward in March, we're looking at phase 2 for grades 3rd through 6th grade. So we know as a high school district that we need to support all of our partner school district. We need to understand what impact that would have on them if this is something that we would move forward with, and that legislators would support the plan that the governor has. We know that there's an invested interest with the incentives that would be received for funding for schools that would reopen under these phases for TK2 as well as 6th grade, 3rd to 6th grade in March. We also understand that this is still early. We're still breaking this down. We know that the governor's proposal may change as he deals with the legislators as well. Alongside that, we also would require new rigorous testing requirements under this actual plan for the schools, updated safety plans for schools as well, which would be provided by the state government as far as the guidelines, and also a dashboard for tracking school outbreaks overall. It is a really comprehensive plan to focus the return of students onto campus, in which the governor is supporting at this point. We know that there's lots of stakeholders that are going to be providing input from our association partners, from our Teachers Association, from CSCA, legislators, of course, and other educational organization entities would provide input. And the key thing here again is it safe to return back onto campus? And how does that look like if we're talking about months from now, or even for high schools? What does it mean for high schools under this plan? We do understand that as part of this requirement also that the program would allow the return of the continuing pod support for some of the students that are most as far as the need of support, such as our special education students, our English learners as well. What I'm trying to understand is that this is the entire package. How does it impact if you're talking about a union high school, not specific to this actual plan, but more about high schools? Nevertheless, we have our own plan of what we're doing overall for the spring semester to support students through the actual allowance of small learning groups at this point. And I'll talk a little about that later. But this is something that initially I have reviewed. Our district staff is also continuing to look at this and seeing how, if it comes to fruition over the next couple of weeks. Keep in mind also that the governor's budget is coming out too. District staff will be also attending the actual governor's initial proposal and to look at how it's going to impact our district moving forward. Next slide. I thought this slide was actually important for us to go through for the next couple of ones, specifically because there's a lot of questions about when is the vaccination coming for educators, for schools, specifically for adults working with students overall. And from what I've learned from CDC is that last month with the meeting that was actually that took place during the winter break, CDC has compiled an advisory group called ACIP, which is the Advisory Committee on Immunization, I believe, practices. So that committee recommends the timeline for both the U.S. adults and children about when the immunization or vaccination schedules would be recommended. And based on those recommendations, then that goes out to the states, and then that's how it comes. We've also heard, and I'm sure you've heard, some of the hiccups that we've had with the actual vaccines that are now currently within the states, but have not been actually sent or brought on to the hospitals or the areas where they're giving the vaccination. There's been a delay because there's also been a shortage of staff members that provide that actual vaccination to the public, specifically to employees and also frontline workers and everyone else. But nevertheless, this slide is telling because it actually balances the priorities of the actual group. Number one, the prevention of our morbidity and mortality, and also the preservation of societal functioning. So if you look at those two columns, you have three groups, phase 1A, phase 1B, and phase 1C. And as across the board, the focus for the priority initial is the 1A, which is the actual LTCF residents, the long-term care facilities residents that are there now, and also your healthcare personnel that are attending to these residents, as well as hospitals and everywhere else. So obviously that went first. The B is where we see ourselves tie into. This includes persons 75 years and older, and also the frontline essential workers. The definition that I'll show you the next slide, you're going to see what the frontline essential workers are and who they are as well. And also you have that phase 3 as well. So this is more of a further breakdown about the actual framework. And this framework is provided by NASEM, and down there is the actual National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. This is in collaboration with CDC, comes from CDC as part of this study as well. So the determination of the framework, again, the phase 1, and the first red star there, high-risk health workers, first responders. And when you look at phase 2, it is quite lengthy, but the first one at the top, the K-12 teachers and school staff and childcare workers as well. And then also the critical workers in high-risk settings that are actually out on the field as well. And so on and so forth. You have a couple other bullet points there that identify other people, specifically to homeless, people in prisons and jails, older adults, that included in phase 1 as well. And then the green component is your phase 3, young adults, obviously, that are less vulnerable, children, workers, children and then workers in industries, occupations, according to the functioning society. Next slide is a couple of more further in-depth about the framework about who are our essential workers. Apparently, according to CDC, about 87 million that we're looking at. On the left column, you'll see the frontline essential workers, about 30 million itself. These are our first responders, educators, food and agriculture, manufacturing, etc. And then to the right, you also have what we call the other essential workers. And you see a long list of specific groups there, working environments and organizations under these fields. Again, this is all from the actual meeting that took place by CDC to this agency that's making the recommendations overall. Yeah, okay, so this is something that is important to share when we have conversations with people about how soon is, are we going to be there? Because again, when you tie in vaccinations to opening schools, there is a strong correlation there, and really gives us confidence about how close we are to returning back to some type of normalcy in the future, hopefully in the near future. Next slide. And here again is really a graph of the proposed vaccination phases. Again, it's broken down into the phase 1 is in 3 components, and then you also have phase 2, which really includes everyone else. Starting with phase 1, you look at that little circle in the center, right in the center of the HCP, your healthcare personnel. And then as you get into the phase B, we talked about the frontline workers. I was driving to work this morning. I ran to one of the police officers, and there's a line forming right now because there's testing that they were preparing for COVID testing across the district office. And I asked him how things are going. He said, "I'm fine." He said, "Actually, we're getting vaccinated at this point." I'm like, "Oh wow, that's great news to hear." He's like, "Yeah, we were surprised to hear it too. It just came suddenly, so be prepared for it." So fingers crossed that as educators down the road, that is something we're going to see in the near future. So that covers that the front line and the 75 years plus under that phase B, and then phase C is what we're looking at, 1C for all of us here as far as in the educational field, along with other folks in the blue part, and then obviously phase 2 is everyone else that's included in there. Okay, next slide. So how has the district responded recently to COVID-19 and ongoing? We know that there's changes constantly. Every week we see changes that we're having to adapt to as a district, because it's important for us to know that when employees contact us, when parents or students are reaching out about specific questions related to the safety and conditions on campus, that we have the right information being disseminated and the most updated information based on what's filtering from whether the Department of Public Health, whether it's from the new OSHA regulations under AB 685, whether it's coming from the state or any information that we have. We've been really focused on that to make sure that we don't miss anything, or or it's updated as soon as we get that information. And I do want to commend both the business office and the human resource office for just staying on top of that. It's important for our staff to know that we're trying to do our best to keep them informed as well and respond to some of the concerns and needs that they have. So number one, you may have heard of compliance with AB 685. This is the most recent that addresses COVID-19 infection prevention requirements. OSHA pushed for this. It's supported through the legislators through AB 685. Basically, it provides OSHA the opportunity to come in to ensure that not only schools, but also other agencies and organizations and businesses are adhering to some of the most restrictive guidelines and protocols in the state. So what we have to do, a couple of things, and just I'll put it in a nutshell, is that we have to change how we address and inform folks. And we've already started doing that. First and foremost, when someone, there's a potential exposure on one of our sites, that we notify all employees at the work site of potential exposure. So we have already started that as of Monday, doing that with all of our sites. And everyone does receive information related to the potential exposure. Not specific as far as the individual in respect to the privacy and laws that we have to protect those individuals, but just to inform them about the potential exposures on campus as well. The second one is COVID-19 related benefits and protections, that we update the information that is provided to employees, that there's a resource and there's an area they can go and find out and get information about their benefits and protections if and when they're impacted by COVID-19. And then obviously the disinfection and safety measures that will take place in response to a potential exposure that we may have on one of our campuses too. So over the winter break, HR worked on the communication to staff. We'll go on to the next slide. And as well as we concluded negotiating the MOU with CSCA, which we were pleased to be able to work with CSCA on extending the MOU through June 30th, 2021, to ensure that the safety concerns are addressed for members from CSCA that actually are coming to work at times to support our families and students and our distance learning programs. And also our communication with employees over the winter break, as mentioned to you, for continued modified work schedules that we currently are implementing at this point. Screening process for all employees and visitors continues with the pre-screening questions as well as the temperature taking. The safety guidelines and procedures that all employees must follow when they report to work, and that it also includes PPE, the protective equipment that we ask and we offer upon request, and anything that we can do to ensure that the safety is adhered to at all times while coming to the work environment. And then the last one is informational forms and checklists for COVID-19 cases. So we streamlined that and made it easy for individuals to have one document with several links on any type of form or checklist if and when there's a COVID case or they experience a COVID case themselves. And that has been very helpful for our supervisors as well as CSCA to refer them to that, and also just the information that's constantly updated through the HR office. Okay, next slide. And then the last part for response to COVID-19, our district is as the board gave direction about finding a solution to providing families and staff or anyone that is within our school community an opportunity for getting tested. We worked out an agreement with Everlywell over the winter break. Unfortunately, with the language and ensuring that we had language that was beneficial in our part for the district. We were going to bring it to you in February because that just got finalized, as a matter of fact, yesterday. So the initial purchase of the 500 kits, which we were able to work out, they would be made available for pickup or delivery to families and staff in need, as well as the release time that we are providing now for employees to get tested through their primary physician or at any LA County pre-testing site. As you know, that the airport is one of the big sites that is made available and easily available within our own community. We also have learned, and we know in partnership with several of the local organizations, including the city of Almani City School District, about testing sites made available on a weekly basis. As I mentioned to you Wednesday morning, this morning, there was cones lined up all the way down Valley Boulevard already, and the city was offering the testing for our community members. And also we know that the Jeff Seymour Center is now providing that. I believe it's on weekly now at this point. So we want to be sure that we provide every opportunity for folks to get tested, and if they're not able to get out, we provide them with the home testing kit as well. It's something that we feel that it's going to help and to ensure that whoever needs testing, that they get it as well. I didn't put this on there yet, but we're also working with the University of Southern California on the study of immunization for students, for youth, and the impact it would take for the immunization for returning students back onto campus. And Almani Union High School District was selected to participate in the study, where some of our students and staff and family members would take part in the study to see how quickly we could adapt to potentially testing students for, I'm sorry, not testing, but actually the immunization for the COVID immunization for students in the near future. We still know that's in the developing stages, but there's a lot of research at this point, and obviously USC being one of our local university partners, something that they're interested in within our school settings. Next slide. I did want to give you some data here because I think it's important that the DNF rate comparison is brought to the forefront. It's something that we continue to monitor, that we are concerned about, because distance learning, we understand that distance learning equates to learning loss. And distance learning has severely impacted many of our students because of the environments that they are facing now while they're at home. We know that many of our students are left alone during this time because students are seeing their parents return back to work, with leaving them at home, and with having the responsibility to get up, get on, ensure that they're doing their work, and just to see the impact it has greatly had overall, not just academically, social and emotionally. So when I hear about distance learning, for me, it's more about how soon can we get students back into some sense of normalcy to provide the resources and everything else that we have on campuses that have benefited them, and also give them some reassurance and confidence about who they are as youth and as students, along with the resources and really what it is to be a high school student, because I know that's one of the major impacts it has had is the sense of hope and really the pressures from being at home, having to adapt to that environment there while they're continuing to learn at home. And I know it's not easy. It's really a double-edged sword that we're talking about, because ultimately the safety and health of our students is going to be our utmost priority before students return here. But I wanted to show you this slide because this is something that we just finished today, since grades were finalized last night. Mr. Cecil assisted me with developing this DNF comparison from last fall, 2019, to this fall, 2020. And if you look at the overall combined D's and F's percentile from each of the schools, we know that there's a significant increase in D's and F's from last year's D's and F's in 2019-20 to this year's fall semester 2020. For example, Rural High School's combined D's and F overall was at 24% this fall. Last fall, 2019, that was at 20%. Mountain View High School had a 5% increase. Almani High School had a 5% increase at D's and F's. South Almani High School had a 1%, as well as Roldy High School had a 3%. We are still compiling the data for prenatal edema, and we have seen because the different grading system that they do carry at this point. So Mr. Cecil will work on that and provide you that in the memos Friday, if he's able to complete that, along with this document here. So this is telling. This is something that should remind us that distance learning is not something that we want to continue. We want to ensure that we do everything possible to support students while at home, And while we're providing professional development opportunities, while supporting with technology resources, while we're providing wraparound services, students are still losing when it comes to learning. So we need to continue to focus on that. And our goal for spring semester is how do we address the D's and F's, whether it's something that we need to revisit some of our grading policies. We need to understand that in the spring and in the summer, when we held students harmless with the D's and F's, with the failing grade, we understand that potentially we could be looking at a different alternative, because if we're providing every resource opportunity for our students that our district is receiving funding for, then the D's and F's need to be addressed. It's critical that our students complete successfully their courses, their classes. We have a different system as far as our classes, where they're taking 3 classes every day now versus the way it's been done in the past. We understand that's been problematic for some of our students, specific to some of the content areas like mathematics, for example. Just over the winter break, I received an email from a student, great student academically, who has struggled tremendously in math, and just pleading with me about, you know, his grade and how it could be how we could support him with that grade, because he didn't want that on his mark moving forward. So we're working with that young man about how to address that, ensuring that we are you know, attending to his concerns, as well as others that are continuing to really struggle with the system that we have through distance learning as well. And we're just not talking about Armani Union High School District issue. We're talking about a statewide issue. We've seen through research and studies about the DNF data, not just an Armani Union issue. It is a distance learning matter that's faced across not only the state, but probably the nation, focusing more on California, but we're discussing the DNF rate overall. Nevertheless, I presented to you the goals that we had for the spring semester. This is one of the goals that we will continue to monitor. If we can go to the next slide. And I want to end just because we have Mrs. Secrets who came today for her first full meeting about the goals that we had presented to you last month on our December 9th meeting. We talked about technology enhancements, supporting the students via campus learning pods. We focus on our DNF rates, which you saw the data now. Our task force continues. Our COVID-19 testing is now intact, and we will hopefully in the next couple of weeks have those in place. Mental and health support resources for both students and staff. You heard what Mountain View High School is doing to support students at this point, to complete our wellness centers while students are away, and when they return, that there is a safe place environment for them to be at every one of our sites. Opportunities for parent-family engagement, that we continue to provide our free meals under the National Lunch Program to all of our students up to the age of 18. That we continue with our Measure HS project while students are away, because we know that it benefits. Construction is really good when no one's there, because it expedites some of the actual projects at this point. Support students through co-curricular programs. We are still keeping close eyes on the athletics with CIF. We have not received any specific updates, but we understand that we're still under the tier system, and right now we're still unfortunately at the bottom tier in the state, and as well as the majority of the 5 areas that have been broken down from the state. So we're hopeful, but at the same time, we're getting close to the official start of the fall season in the next 2-3 weeks, and we need to make a decision whether the fall season will either not take place, or if there's some chance that it will be able to happen at some point. And then last, that we continue to work not only with our KA partners, but also with our other organizations, agencies within the community to support them. Over the winter break, Mrs. Sayer, our Director of Nutrition Services, was able to provide additional resources to some of our local agencies, the Emergency Resource Center as well, and just a couple others that we feel could benefit since we have an overage of some of the food items that we've had. So we're happy to be our partners with whether it's ERA or anyone else to support, because at some point we're going to need that support too as a district. So those are the goals. As a reminder, we'll continue to work through those goals over the next couple of months. I think that was my last slide at this point. Next slide, please. Yes, sir. So at this time, if there's any questions related to the information or anything else that you wish to share, I have the opportunity to have some questions now.
Thank you, Dr. Zuniga, for your presentation. At this time, if there's any questions from the board.
Just a comment.
Mr. Padilla, go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Zuniga, with the new funding that we're going to be receiving in terms of addressing learning loss, I would like to create, a task force or open it up to our teachers on how we can address the DNF rate, because we could see that across the board that virtual learning is taking its toll on teachers, on students, and that DNF is rising. But if we're receiving funding from the state and from the feds regarding, mitigating learning loss, why not bring together a group of educators from our school district to try to address this DNF rate and pick their brains? Because at the end of the day, they are the ones that are there in the trenches. Right. We can pass all these programs, we can pass all these, things, but they know the best practices. They apply the best practices. And so let's think out of the box, let's bring them together and go at it and have a discussion, just like we created this task force to address the needs and the issues that we are going to be taking on with COVID-19. Why can't we take that same approach and open it up to see which educators would like to have this discussion on their ideas? I'm very much interested in what do they think. They're the experts. They're the ones that are dealing with this. So just like we have the free professional development, and we know that every school has their own professional development tailored to their style of learning or their style of doing things in their neighborhood or in their high school. Or maybe we need to create 5 different state committees of teachers to come together to address this issue that is, it's a black cloud hanging over all of us, over them as educators, over you as a superintendent, over us as school board members. Because at the end of the day, people send their children to our schools so that they can achieve at a very high level, that they can pass their classes, that they can graduate, and that they can move on to college. So I would like to have some discussion and have my colleagues see if they join in creating some type of task groups at each high school formed by educators that are the experts in our school district to tackle this issue, and maybe use some of those funds that the government is giving us to address that, the learning loss.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. That's a great point. I do have good news. We actually are doing that at this point. Mrs. Wolf is actually convening a meeting. She reached out to all the sites and asked for any teachers that would be interested in coming together to address the DNF rate and also address what needs they have for that. I think in addition to that, the other half is, what do students need? Because we understand that if we're not meeting their needs at home, no matter what we do, I think the DNF rate will continue. So we also, another part, my head spinning right now, is that maybe it's a student task force that we also should look at, perhaps through the extended SAC committee or a group that we can get from the site. So thank you for that. But I know that that's important, and I'm glad that we're on the same page here, because it's important that that DNF rate continues to be addressed. So thank you for your input, though.
Yeah, really quickly, though, I know you said this, so that was unbeknownst to me. When did this discussion come out with Ms. Wolf in terms of a time frame? How recently was it, or was it this week, last week?
We actually did that prior to the winter break, like that last week that we had been addressing it, because we knew that the DNF rate was going to come up at the end of the actual semester, which closed, obviously grades closed yesterday. So she did the legwork about what Ms. Wolf does, for example, is her responsibility is to get support the sites through the instructional coaches. Instructional coaches provide what the teachers are saying, and the frustration is there. So let's get the group together and let's say, okay, if you're willing to put in the time, and we'll get together, let's get you guys together so we can see what resources each of the sites needs. So.
And I think that's great. And just in you talking, when you mentioned the student component, I mean, we have one of the strongest leaders I've ever seen on this school board with Citlalic. Why couldn't we incentivize those students that are getting the DNF rates and bringing them to the table through our student advisory committee or that type of meeting where we could have somebody leading that discussion, or having Citlalic, you know, because Citlalic is on the other end. She's not on the DNF spectrum. She's on the A's and B's, and she's on her way. And whatever program we have, I don't care where she goes, she's going to be successful. But she has some of the trades that we want some of these DNF students to get that they don't yet have. So what better way than to have somebody like Citlalic, a student, talking to students where they can have their guard down and they're not talking to an adult, talking about how, you know, what can we do for you? Like, what can teachers do, or what are teachers doing currently that is not making you happy, or what do you need from us so that we can get you to a better place? So I think on both ends, we can do the teacher and the teacher end, and then we can do the student end, and then look at the data, and you compile that and bring it to the board to come up with some solutions. Because even if it was non-COVID time, we've always had the DNF rate problem, but it just highlighted more now because of the pandemic. But I really like the student portion that you talk about as well, I'm sorry, not Mr., I apologize, Dr. Zuniga. That's something that we really need to look into, to specifically talk to those kids that are getting D's and F's and hearing it from the mouths of those students of what we can do to better address their needs, and you know what it is that they need to do that they're not doing, because I know the teachers are working hard. I mean, harder more than ever. And I say that because as an educator, we're all working harder now with virtually than we did when the students were coming in person. So I would really like to explore the student aspect of it, Dr. Zuniga, as well as the teacher aspect of it.
Yeah, both aspects are very important. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla.
Mr. President, may I talk, please?
Yes, Ms. Torres de Sigris, you're recognized. Go ahead.
Dr. Zuniga, thank you very much for this explanation, and this presentation is really great. Have you ever thought in giving this presentation to the parents? Because parents need to be educated about this situation. And I think that the way that you presented and the way that accessible that you are, you can help parents a lot, and also understand the problem about the COVID, and at the same time, the students. What do you think? Do you think it's a crazy idea, or it's not really?
Absolutely not. We actually have had a parent forum in the fall semester. So our intention is also to have another parent forum to inform them about the spring semester, but some of the key components that were highlighted today, more specific to student academic instruction and how we can support them, not only academically, but also with other services. So I think that should continue. It's a great suggestion, and it's something that we would probably get together once the semester settles down a little bit. So I would say within the end of January, early February, we already are going to hold our first spring semester forum with our parents. So thank you again for that.
Mrs. Torres de Sigris, did you have any additional comments or questions?
No, I understood the answer, and I was not last semester, but I'm very happy that the parents, they have been involved, because the more that the parents know, not only from the media, directly from the school, and a person like you, that you have been paying attention and you have been attending meetings and bringing to the district, is the best thing that you can do, is for helping the parents to help their students. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Torres de Sigris. Any additional comments? Mr. Diaz, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Zuniga, for the information that you provided. That was quite comprehensive and a lot. With respect to the CARES funding or even in the governor's plan, did you see anything with respect to adult ed, funding for adult ed or support?
I don't believe I did see anything about adult ed. I know, Mr. Altard, you also had the chance to review it. Did you see anything from the adult ed component?
Not that I'm aware of, but we will find out more in the next couple of days.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Any additional questions for Mr. Diaz?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Salcedo, any questions or comments?
Not at this time.
Thank you. So at this time, if there's no objection, we will take a short recess. Say 5 minutes. We'll be back at 7:05. So we'll take a quick recess. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone. At this time, I'd like to reconvene the meeting from recess. At this time, we're moving on to our consent agenda. Are there any items that a member would like to hold for discussion? Mr. Salcedo?
No, my questions were answered.
Thank you. Mr. Padilla?
No questions, Mr. Briones.
Thank you. Mrs. Torres de Segrist?
Yes, I have a question on item 1. Do you want me to give you all the items? Item 1,
Yes.
item 2, and item 6.
Item 1, item 2, and item 6?
Yes, please.
Okay. Mr. Diaz?
None for me, sir.
Thank you. So at this time, I will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda, excluding items number 1, 2, and 6. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mrs. Torres de Segrist. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Padilla. Dr. Zuniga, if you'll take a roll call vote.
Okay, we'll start off with Mrs. Torres de Segrist.
Aye.
Mr. Padilla.
Aye.
Mr. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Salcedo.
Yes.
And Mr. Briones.
Aye.
Count 5-0.
Thank you. The consent agenda is adopted, excluding items 1, 2, and 6. This time we'll take up the items that were held by Mrs. Torres de Segrist. Is there a motion to approve item number 1?
I move to approve it.
Is there a second?
Well, aren't there questions? Isn't that why we pulled it?
No.
Yeah, but we need a first and a second, and then we move to discussion.
Okay.
So I have a motion by Mrs. Torres de Segrist on item number 1. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Salcedo. Discussion, Ms. Torres de Segrist, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question, not much discussion. A question about that. The report shows that our district pays $157 per month in property tax. I don't understand what property does our district own, and what and where is it?
Sure, we can clear that for you. Mr. Alatar, I know Mr. Nord is also available, so any of you want to comment on that or respond?
Yeah, sure. Without looking at the log, we do own properties that we pay taxes for. The San Dimas property is one of them, so that could be the case.
That's the one. Yeah, I remember. Okay, it is the one in San Dimas. Yes. As my answer is now. Yes, I understand where is that one.
Does that answer your question, Mrs. Torres de Segrist?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any other questions on this item?
No, only that one.
Okay. If there are no other questions, Dr. Zuniga, if you'll take a roll call vote on item number 1 on consent.
Thank you. Mrs. Torres de Segrist.
Aye.
Mr. Padilla.
Aye.
Mr. Diaz.
Aye.
Mr. Salcedo.
Aye.
Briones.
Aye.
Count 5-0.
Thank you. The item is adopted unanimously. Moving on to item number 2, consider approval to accept cash donations. Is there a motion to approve?
I move it.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Torres de Segrist, seconded by Mr. Salcedo. Discussion or questions? Mrs. Torres de Segrist?
Yes, this is a question that I have. Do we send certificates of appreciation or plaques to the donors? They would really appreciate it. I am sure that they are going to do it because that is really interesting. All the amount of money that they are giving to our schools and all the interest that they have in our schools. I really think that they need to get some kind of appreciation from our board. What do you think? Do I have?
I can respond to that, but it really ultimately it would be the board. What we do is we have the schools ensure that there is a formal recognition through a letter or a recognition through some type of acknowledgement from the principals or the site club, whoever's receiving it on behalf of the school. As a district, if the board wishes to provide certificates for the donations, we're happy to do so as well.
Yeah, because some donations are very high and some donations are very low, but any of that is our schools, they really need a lot of help and a lot of recognition from our society. And if we say thank you, it's a way of letting them know that we pay attention to them. That's the reason I consider that it's very important to give some kind of thank you to them.
We do have annual donations that are already kind of on a cycle, that whether there's contributions to scholarships, so it's like an annual one. And I know that if we do it, it'll be an annual recognition too. Excuse me.
If I may, I totally agree with Mrs. Torres de Seigres, and I say that because we've had this discussion in the past, Dr. Zuniga, excuse me, I keep calling you Mr., I apologize. If you recall, Dr. Zuniga, remember the donors that raised up to $1,000 that gave the money to Armani High School for the second ring? If you recall, some of those donors contacted me and said, Mr. Padilla, like, you know, it would have been nice to receive some type of certificate or something from the school district acknowledging our donation, because all we received was a receipt back from the school district. Do you remember that topic that I brought up to you? That
yeah, I think it was during the CIF football rings that we were referring to.
Exactly, but whether it's for CIF rings, whether it's for whatever the donor wants it to be to go to our students, I think it's in our best interest for the board to be appreciative, whether it's $5, $10, or $10,000. I think that we should recognize our community members for opening up their wallets. But I thought we were already doing that because I was very much embarrassed when the person contacted me, the donor, and said, Mr. Padilla, all I got in the mail from your school district was a receipt, you know, indicating that they had accepted and they had received my cash donation and my check. So I would hope that we're already doing that. And I thought we were already doing that, Dr. Zuniga.
Yeah, like as I mentioned to you, normally it does come from the school sites, but we can do an annual routine. The donations are done through board policy as far as the report is biannual report, one at the middle of the year, one at the end. But that could be an ongoing thing if that's what the board wishes to do the certificates for. So we can do that as a formal process or based on recommendation from the board monthly.
Well, I don't think we should make a person wait till the end of the year to get their recognition. If they gave it to us in January, then they should get something in January. If they give something in March,
correct,
they shouldn't have to wait till December, because by then the person probably thinks, oh, they didn't even, you know, they don't remember it. Or, I mean, people like to get instant recognition or for them to feel well for the donation that they give. And I don't think people donate for the recognition or for a certificate. I think they donate for our students, but I think it would be, you know, a nice gesture on the Board of Education's part to acknowledge their you know, their giving to us. So I'm not okay with waiting till the end of the year to give someone something that they gave in January, February, early in the year. It should happen pretty close to the time that they gave it, and with enough time for staff to prepare a certificate. So I would like to hear what the rest of my colleagues feel about that, because it just doesn't sit right that we only send out a receipt in the past. That was a sore subject for me, and I didn't like to hear that from my community member.
And just to let you know that the policy, the board policy allows to receive the donation. This is the formal approval of the board through the biannual report, as you can see on the item. So what the board is formally approving is actually the receiving of the actual donation itself. Although the board policy allows the superintendent to receive the donation with the actual report coming in mid-year and at the end of the year. So if the board wants to give direction about the monthly ones, we can certainly do that. It just needs the board direction on that.
So if I may, I do believe we have board policy regarding both receiving donations, grants and otherwise. And we also have board policy on recognitions. And I do want to remind my colleagues that if you would like to recognize or have somebody recognized who has made a contribution to our district, of whether it's monetary or otherwise, please bring it up during roundtable at the end to get consensus. Most recently, Trustee Morgan, when she was on the board, brought up 2 organizations to be recognized because of their contributions to our instructional programs at Arroyo High School. So I'm not disagreeing with the request. I just want to make sure that we're doing it in the appropriate manner. And if it's something that we need to discuss, to adopt something formal, as Dr. Zuniga has already stated, the schools are responsible for sending a letter of thanks to the donor. But if we want to make it something formal where they get something from the Board of Trustees, that we can bring it up during roundtable and then get consensus and then start the process on adopting that board policy. Because we do have board policy on both the receiving donations as well as recognizing individuals or contributors, whether monetary or otherwise.
Yeah, send us the board policy on both of those topics. I would like to see it in my Friday packet. I would like to take a look at it because I don't think it's that complicated. It's like give the people of our school district a certificate. It's not that complicated. So can we please get that in writing in our Friday memo? I'm sorry, but it's just recognizing people for, giving to our kids. It shouldn't get so technical, but if it is, so be it. Send it to us in writing, Dr. Zuniga, in the Friday memo.
Sure, we can do that on Friday.
I was really very, very happy to see the list of people that they are donated to our different high schools and adult education. Some they were pretty good amount of money that they get into them, and it's a way of saying thank you because you are thinking in our students, and you know that we are here, of course, El Monte Union High School District, but the main part is our students, and we have to be thankful for the people that they are helping us. That's the reason that I brought it to the table, okay?
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Torres de Segrist. So this time the item has been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, Dr. Zuniga, if you'll take a roll call vote on consent agenda item number 2.
Thank you. Mrs. Torres de Segrist?
Aye.
Mr. Padilla?
Aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Salcedo?
Yes.
Mr. Briones?
Aye.
Count 5-0.
Thank you. The item is adopted unanimously. Moving on to item number 6, consider approval of membership to the California Latino School Board Association. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Padilla. Is there a second?
Aye. I do it.
Seconded by Mrs. Torres de Segrist. Any discussion or questions? Mrs. Torres de Segrist?
Yes, it is really interesting to see that because I would like to be one of the 5 members of the California Latino School Board Association. To belong to that association, I think that is an honor. And thank you very much for getting 5 members that we can belong to that association. And I would like to be one of the members. Mr. Zuniga, what do you think?
The 5 would be for the members, ma'am. I also would like to, if I may, I know there's also, and I do apologize, I did forget about our student board member, but there also is an opportunity for students to be board members of CLSBA, and I also would like to add that recommendation to this item here, if I may.
So you'd like to include our student trustee as well?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
25 for the student.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Padilla, you made the motion to approve.
New motion. I move to consider approval of membership of the California Latino School Board Association, including our student trustee to also be a part of that membership.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Torres de Segrist, you made the second. Do you accept the amendment?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so thank you. Any further discussion or questions on this item? Seeing none. Dr. Zuniga, the item has been moved and seconded. Can you take a roll call vote?
Yeah, thank you. Mrs. Torres de Segrist?
Aye.
Mr. Padilla?
Aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Salcedo?
Aye.
And Mr. Briones?
Aye.
Count is 5-0 for item number 6.
Thank you. So the item is adopted unanimously as amended. Moving on to our regular agenda. Item number 1, consider approval of pre-qualified pool of general contractors for track and field projects for calendar year 2021. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Diaz, Mr. Padilla. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Mrs. Torres de Segrest. Any discussion?
Yes, I have one, Mr. President.
Mr.
Okay.
Torres de Segrest, go ahead.
Okay, how do contractors learn about projects in our district? How did they know? How do the contractors learn about the projects in our district?
Excellent question. I do have Ms. Sanchez here who oversees the process, so she's happy to share that response with you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mrs. Torres de Segrest. To answer your question, one of the first things we do is obviously we put the package together. We have a pre-qualified in the standard project. Let me back up for a moment. When it's a regular district project, we do have a pre-qualification process through a company called Colby Technology, who in turn provides us with a software called Quality Bidders. Through that software, contractors are eligible to submit a pre-qualification application for the district. And in turn, that application, it doesn't go just with our district. It also, it's kind of like a generalized pool. For example, let's say a contractor is already pre-qualified with El Monte City School District. That once we open up our pre-qualification process, that contractor's application slides into our pool as well for consideration. So that's one avenue. The second avenue is we do an annual notification through several trades throughout the state of California so that contractors do receive that information. And it's also a very well-known fact throughout the contractor industry, if you will, that pre-qualification is a mandate for most districts, if not most public agencies in the state of California. And it's typically done usually in the fall of every calendar year. And the qualification process is done on an annual basis. In this particular case, as you'll see later on regular agenda, there is a project we're bringing forward for recommendation to award this evening, which is a pre-qualification process as well for that project. In that particular case, we actually advertised a project in our local newspaper publication, the San Gabriel Valley Tribune. So that was another avenue that we utilized. So that's 3. And we also posted on our district website.
And another question that I would like to know, to have answered, Ms. Sanchez, can we require they hire local workers for these projects, local workers in our community? Do we require that they hire our people from the community?
It's not necessarily a mandate that's specified in the instructions. That's typically what the contractors typically do is they will actually, for example, again, I'm going to refer back to the Rosemead project that's coming up in just a moment. In that instance, what the contractors do is we will put out the solicitation or the invitation for bid. The contractors, however, go out and obtain their own proposals from subcontractors, for instance. So I can't specifically say that, yes, they're from within our immediate community. That would be something that the contractors would take upon themselves to solicit. And they could be either from this community or from surrounding communities. What I think you might be referring to is something that I know has been tossed around as a PLA, for instance. That's something that's a little bit different. But again, we don't specify or mandate that the contractor solicit contractors from within our immediate metro.
Okay.
Let me add to this. There is for the large projects that utilizing bond dollars, there are some of these projects require a percentage of participation of employees to be workers to be hired within geographic areas. That's a BLA that Claudia was talking about. And we have that percentage, I believe, is around 30 to 40% in some of these projects.
That's the way. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions, Mrs. Torres de Segrest?
No, everything was clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this item?
Just a comment. So, Mr. Elatar, to Mrs. Torres de Segrest's question, the reason that 30% or 40% percentage that is required to have local workers, to have minority workers, the reason that doesn't apply to these projects is because they're under a certain dollar amount, correct? Can you talk a little bit about that?
It's not dollar amount. It's really specific projects, the large projects that that would require BLA. Normally, those projects are in the tune of $2 to $5 million or more. So, and it's not necessarily a requirement. It's more of a goal that they need to achieve, and we actually account for it. So we track the percentage of workers who live within certain areas to ensure that they are meeting those goals.
Thank you. I appreciate her question because I know she was referring to the larger projects of ensuring that we have minority workers, local workers through the project labor agreement. And I talk about that because I myself, together with Mr. Diaz, are the representatives on the PLA committee that address these issues as we're coming up with a PLA agreement. And again, thank you for that clarification that it's not a requirement, but that it's a goal that we're striving for as a school district to be sensitive, to be able to employ those members of our community. But the reason that those goals don't apply for these projects that are on the agenda today is because these are not projects that are costing $2 million to $5 million, correct? That's why these goals don't apply to these little jobs per se.
Yes, in a certain degree, and they are also very specialized type of projects that are require pre-qualification to ensure that these contractors are doing the track and field installation properly and not impacting the warranty from manufacturers. So most of these companies or contractors are not BLA. So that's one of the reasons as well, is that there are not so many contractors in that specialized field who are BLA.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. But great question, Ms. Estela Torres de Segrest. It is important to make sure that we hire locally and that we are being fair and that we track that. And I know that that's something that Mr. Elatar is very much on top of, because the entire board, the entire board is very conscientious of that, and the CBO knows that that is something that we're going to be asking for in terms of who's being hired from where and how far, and are local people getting employed by that. So thank you for that question. I appreciate it.
I made that question because when I was checking all the board docs and I was looking at this important agenda, part of regular agenda, I remember Mrs. Farnell, our superintendent that we have it, like when I was there for the first time, 2007, she told us that one of the biggest, really the biggest places in El Monte who gave business to our society, our group, it was really El Monte Union High School District, because as soon as they need some workers, they always have it first in El Monte, in the city of Monte. No, not only in the city of Monte, also in the district. And it was very interesting. It really impressed me because we need to help our members of our El Monte Union High School District. That's the reason I thought that it was a question that I wanted to ask you. Thank you very much. The answer was really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Torres de Segrest. If there's no further discussion on this item, Dr. Zuniga, if you'll take a roll call vote.
Thank you.
Item number 2. Excuse me, item number
1.
1. Sorry.
Number one.
So we will take the vote, item number 1 on the regular agenda, starting with Ms. Estela Torres de Segrest.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Padilla?
Aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Salcedo?
Yes.
And Mr. Briones?
Aye.
You got a count of 5-0.
Thank you. The item is adopted unanimously. Item number 2, consider approval of proposal with Salazar Surveying Incorporated to produce a topographic survey of the track and field at Arroyo High School. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Salcedo, seconded by Mr. Diaz. Any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Zuniga, if you'll take a roll call vote.
Okay, we'll start off with Mrs. Torres Segrest.
Aye.
Mr. Padilla?
Aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Salcedo?
Yes.
And Mr. Briones?
Aye.
The count is 5-0.
Thank you. The item is adopted unanimously. Item number 3, consider approval of amendment number 1 to increase DLR group contract amount to provide architectural services for the South Almani Quad project. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Move to approve.
Second, and I have a comment.
Moved by Mr. Diaz, seconded by Mr. Salcedo. Discussion, Mr. Salcedo?
I know in the past I've asked for a lot more background information, so I just wanted to say thank you. Having that timeline there on some of these items, especially with this type, makes a huge difference for me to be able to research and recall some of the things we've done in the past. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salcedo. Any other discussion on this item?
I just love the architectural renderings and some of the urban canopy that's being presented there, especially with the SEM logo there. I think our students and staff are going to be really excited about how it comes out when it's done. I also see there's like some stormwater capture elements included there as well. So, yeah, it's awesome. If folks are listening, please open the document to look at the renderings.
Thank you, Mr. Salcedo and Mr. Diaz, for your comments. Any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, Dr. Zuniga, if you'll take a roll call vote on item number 3.
Item number 3, okay. Mrs. Torres Segrest.
Yes.
Mr. Padilla?
Aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Salcedo?
Yes.
Mr. Briones?
Aye.
Count is 5-0.
Thank you. The item is adopted unanimously. Item number 4, consider approval to proceed with Southern California Edison Charge Ready Transport Program to install school bus electric vehicle charging infrastructure and associated EV equipment at qualifying district locations and sign related agreements and easement documents. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Diaz. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Padilla. Any discussion?
Mr. Briones?
Yes, Ms. Palacios?
I believe I had preferential vote on this item.
Not on number 5?
No, I'm sorry. Sorry, number 5. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, if there's no discussion or no further discussion, Dr. Zuniga, if you take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Mrs. Torres Segrest.
Aye.
Mr. Padilla?
Aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Salcedo?
Yes.
And Mr. Briones?
Aye.
Count 5-0.
Thank you. The item is adopted unanimously. Item number 5, consider approval to authorize purchase for 1 additional zero-emission all-electric school bus for the Clean Mobility in Schools pilot project. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Diaz. Is there a second?
Second, and I have a question.
Seconded by Mrs. Torres de Segrest. Discussion, Mrs. Torres de Segrest, go ahead, and then we'll move on to Mrs. Palacios.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have a question about this. Will this bus come with seat belts for student safety? Did this? They come with these buses. This bus comes with the seat belt for the student safety.
Yes, they do come with seat belts. All school buses are required to have seat belts now.
Oh, because that was one of I was worried about that. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Torres de Segrest. And now Ms. Palacios.
Thank you, President Briones. The board should vote in favor of the approval of purchasing one additional zero-emissions all-electric school bus because it will have positive impacts on our environment and it gets us one step closer to becoming an even more environmentally friendly district. Our job as a board is to distribute our money evenly and adequately to best meet the needs of our students. And I think that purchasing an additional zero-emissions all-electric school bus allows us to not only set a good example for our students, but impacts our community positively. We are experiencing a climate change crisis as a result of greenhouse gas emissions. A few months back, we saw the intense wildfires in California, and the climate change issue on our planet only continues to worsen. We need to do our part to ensure that future generations do not inherit this issue. We will be doing just that by continuing to approve proposals like these that work to help our environment and limit our carbon footprint. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Palacios. If there's no further discussion, the item has been moved and seconded. Dr. Zuniga, if you'll take a roll call vote.
Okay. Mrs. Torres-Tigres?
Aye.
Mr. Padilla?
Aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Salcedo?
Yes.
Mr. Briones?
Aye.
Count 5-0.
Thank you. The item is adopted unanimously. Item number 6, consider approval of the independent contract agreement between the Armani Union High School District and Todd Macy to provide support during the federal program monitoring review. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Padilla. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Salcedo. Any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Zuniga, if you'll take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Mrs. Torres-Tigres?
Aye.
Mr. Padilla?
Aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Salcedo?
Yes.
And Mr. Briones?
Aye.
Count is 5-0 for item number 6.
Thank you. The item is adopted unanimously. Item number 7, consider approval of resolution number 18-20/21 for National School Counseling Week in February. I'd like to move to approve this item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Salcedo. Any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Zuniga, if you'll take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Mrs. Torres-Tigres?
Aye.
Mr. Padilla?
Aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Salcedo?
Yes.
And Mr. Briones?
Aye.
And count is 5-0.
Thank you. The item is adopted unanimously. Item number 8, review, discuss, and revise the district's board policies and administrative regulations, 5000 series, first reading, today, January 6, 2021. Any questions, any discussion on this item? No? Okay. And we'll bring it back for second reading and adoption at the next meeting. Item number 9, consider approval of addendum to memorandum of understanding between the California School Board Association and its Armani Union High School District Chapter number 11 and the Armani Union High School District concerning the impacts and effects of resumed district operations under COVID-19 conditions. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Padilla, seconded by Mrs. Torres de Segrist. Any discussion?
I have a question about this.
Go ahead, Mrs. Torres de Segrist.
Thank you. Do we talk with each one of our employees that belong to this group? What do they think about this COVID right now? Do we have some kind of conversation with each one of the employees? Is it possible to have that, to talk with them and asking what is their opinion of that coming to work? And I know that they don't come every day, that they have a space. Some days they come, some days they don't come. But what do we have that human part of talking to them and asking of what do they think coming to work?
Yes, Mrs. Torres-Tigres, one of the factors that are very key to the success of communication is that a lot of the information is provided at the school site with the immediate supervisor. So what we do is we try to constantly inform our administrators. We meet weekly with our principals to ensure that the information that must be shared with employees is updated and is provided to principals. So when employees do have questions or concerns, that they're provided with the appropriate response related to COVID-19. Further that, when we do implement a program, let me give you an example, the learning pods. There was a lot of concern about our learning pods opening up because it was involving small groups of students that needed support on campus, that some of our staff members were going to be with them in the classroom. We're talking about a learning pod of up to 12 students with 2 supervisors. So what we did is we worked with CSCA officers, which was the president and other officers. They are the representative of those members who really speak on behalf of the member concerns. We worked together on a plan to provide training, to provide informational sessions, to provide responses to questions that they had. We had virtual meetings with every school site with any of these employees that were going to be directly impacted by small learning pods as well. So it was a great opportunity. It didn't take one meeting. It took several times to meet with them, to discuss, to hear concerns, and really adjust to some of the concerns that they had. What we did with the MOU this year is we worked with CSA on addressing member concerns directly at the table. For example, there's still a lot of concerns with members returning to work that have childcare concerns, meaning that they have little ones that are still at home learning, and there's no childcare available for those families, and specifically our employees who have children. So we were able to continue with that program that we offer, allow our employees who have that issue with working with them while they work at home, watch their kids at the same time, continue to communicate with their immediate supervisor when there's a need for work, whether it's at the site or there. But nevertheless, I think CSCA was pleased because the law did expire under the federal government, that they would no longer continue some of these programs under the current federal COVID guidelines or incentives, not even incentives, but really the rights that we were providing to employees until December 31st. We felt that it was important to continue some of these practices in place because distance learning still continues, childcare is still an issue, and that we work case by case with the immediate supervisor. Everyone has a different circumstance, so it's important for us that we communicate case by case and not just as a whole sometimes too. So we've done a little bit of both. We did the individual talk, and then we did the group talk with the support of CSCA.
Okay.
I hope I answered the question. I know there's a lot to that, but I think that we have worked to address some of the concerns that have come our way from our members. And I do want to just again commend our frontline workers, our food nutrition services program, who just are an amazing team, and under the leadership of Susie Sayer, our FMLT department. And I think that addressing those concerns at the lowest level and having those conversations is very important. So I appreciate you asking that question.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I have a question.
One second, Ms. Torres de Seigres, does that answer all your questions?
Yes, that was correct. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Padilla, go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Zuniga, the PowerPoint presentation that you shared today with the circles in terms of the priority and who gets the vaccine, and then the differentiation of the essential workers and stuff like that. Is it possible for you to share that with us later on tonight, rather than waiting till Friday? Is that something that can be done?
Absolutely. I'll share that right when we're done here.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's it. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. Any other discussion or further discussion on this item? Seeing none, Dr. Zuniga, if you'll take a roll call vote on item number 9.
Okay, for item number 9, we'll start off with Ms. Torres de Seigres.
Yes.
Mr. Padilla?
Aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Mr. Santos?
Aye.
And Mr. Jonas?
Aye.
Thank you. For number 9, we have a 5-0 count.
Thank you. The item is approved unanimously. Item number 10, consider approval to award bid number 2020-21B11, general contracting services for the Rosemead High School track and field replacement project to Los Angeles Engineering Incorporated. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Padilla. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Salcedo. Any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Zuniga, if you take a roll call vote.
Okay. Again, we'll start off with Mrs. Torres de Seigres.
Aye.
Mr. Padilla.
Aye.
Mr. Diaz.
Aye.
And Mr. Salcedo.
Aye.
Mr. Briones.
Aye.
For item number 10, count is 5-0.
Thank you. The item is approved unanimously. Moving on to board communication and roundtable. This is an opportunity for board members to bring up topics or issues in future meetings for future agenda items. Start off tonight with Mrs. Torres de Segrist. And I'd like to remind everyone that we have adopted board policy limiting our discussion to 5 minutes apiece.
Okay, thank you very much, President. I want to communicate that starting in January, middle of the January, our 5 school principals are going to get the letter about Girls State. As you know, we are Girls State and Boys State never stop. And especially El Monte Union High School District is really great because our own superintendent is a Boys State and our own president is a Boys State too. And of course, Mrs. Robin Torres, a Girls State. And El Monte Union High School District has a very good record in belonging and participating, even when COVID tried to avoid it. Well, this year we are going to have it again. The Girls States, we are going to have it again from June the 28th to July the 1st. What are we going to do it? That's already decided. It's going to be virtual. And it's going to be 5 days. How they are going to do, who knows? But next week, they are going to send me all the information and I'm going to give it to our teacher, our principals, and also, of course, to our superintendent, the program, the Girls State. Back in September, our principals, they say yes, they compromise themselves to send me 5 girls and from those 5 girls, we are going to select the one that is going to represent each one of the high schools. Thank you very much. And I'm very proud again from El Monte Union High School District that during 30 years, it's been a very important part of Girls State. I don't talk about Boys State because boys are different, but the girls, we keep fighting really hard. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mrs. Torres de Segrist. Moving on, Mr. Salcedo.
Not today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Padilla.
Yes. Yes. First of all, I would like to wish everyone a healthy, happy 2021 New Year. I know that the year is starting off, with some bad news with everything that's happening in the Capitol and also with everything with COVID-19. But I think that last year and this year, we will continue to see the resiliency that the people of our state and of our nation have. And so I just want to wish everybody a healthy, happy New Year. And also, I just wanted to clear something up. I know in the last board meeting, I kind of felt in last month's board meeting, I want to clear something up with Mr. David Diaz. I kind of felt like I was being accused of bullying you. He talked about the perception that I was giving and asking you to once, twice, or maybe 3 times. I asked that I wanted you to, just a second, my light went off. The perception that I was giving by asking you to post your biography on the district website. And when I do that, by no means am I trying to bully you. One of the things that this board is noted for is for always creating equity and equality. And I'm not asking board member Briones to do more or to do less, but to do the same as the rest of us. In the same manner in which Mrs. Stella Torres de Segrist is going to have to post her bio, that's the only thing that I'm asking for. I know that when you were nominated as president of this school board for a second time, you were very enthusiastic about accepting the nomination and accepting to be our president for a second time. But I think that you must lead by example. And I wish that you were as enthusiastic about posting your bio on our district website like the rest of us. Because again, and I will say this, I know that you are a person that likes technology. The community often tells me about the different things that you post, but I just wish that you would post your bio so that you would be equal to the rest of us. And again, equality and equity is something that we fight for very much so on this board. And as a minority going to school and going to college in the American education system, it's something that I will always continue to fight for. So again, I'm not asking you to do something more than the rest of us, but equal to the rest of us. I know he also Mr. Diaz gave a definition of success, and that some people have success in different ways, that not everybody goes to college. And I thank him for giving me that explanation, or that, I kind of felt it was a little bit of a lecture, but I know that my own 2 kids, I have 2 kids, and they've said that to my face, and they've said, we don't want to be academias like you, Dad. We want to work with our hands. And I respect that, and I respect them, because they're very successful in the jobs that they're in. I also have friends that didn't go to college that are very successful. Some of them have even reminded me that with all my degrees, they make more money than me. And so I'm very much aware of the definition of success, and that not everybody has to go to college. And it's one thing when your kids say it to your face, and my kids, and I do have a little bit of experience with parenting and understanding the definition of success. My babies are 21 and 22. So, having Mr. Diaz kind of give me that definition or that explanation when his baby is, I think, not even 1, I kind of took a bit of offense to that, in that I have a little more experience of being a parent, just like Mrs. Salvatores de Seigres has a little more experience than me in being a parent to her children, because her children are older, and then Mr. Salcido has high school kids. So, I know a little bit about parenting. I didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday. So I kind of took offense to that. Because I walk the walk and I talk the talk when it comes to success. For over 28 years that I've been an educator, I've been an excellent role model. And Mr. Diaz also touched on that students are watching, or we're role models to our students. And again, absolutely. I want students to speak up and always have equality and have equity. And I don't want them to be more or less, but I want them to be equal to the rest of their peers. And in terms of bullying, I don't think I have been a bully at all. As a matter of fact, I've been the recipient of bullying, and the bullies on this school board have been Mr. Briones, Mr. Diaz, Mr. Salcido. And I'll tell you 2 examples of how you have bullied me over the years, close to 4 years. For the past 4 years, you guys have blocked me from being president of the school board. And, you guys have not been happy with me because I'm very vocal and I don't hold back and I state my mind. And
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you're at your 5 minutes, so I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
Yeah, so my wrap up is like, don't accuse me of bullying when you guys have been the biggest bullies. You bullied me for 4 years, and when you talk about perception and the audience and the people that watch this meeting, they will be the judges of that. But for me, it's not perception. It's been reality that you guys have bullied me for about 4 years, and especially in allowing you to be president a second time. Just like your constituents want you to have that opportunity to be president, my constituents would like to see me do the same thing. But I haven't been able to do that because of the bullying that you guys have engaged in. And that's not perception. That is reality. So I want to be clear on that record. And Mr. Diaz, I've been on the school board longer than you, so I'm more experienced as a board member.
Mr. Padilla, I'm sorry again. You're at 6 minutes now, and I'll you an additional minute.
I will tie it up. My baby's 21 and 22, so I know how to be a father. And lastly, I've been in my profession for 28 years. So please don't try to lecture me on topics that I have a whole lot more experience in than you. Lastly, what you should do is you should take a shower, put on a suit, put on a tie, and show your face, because you haven't done that for a couple months. And I think that you owe—
Mr. Padilla, I'm sorry. Those comments are completely out of line and unnecessary. And at this time, I'm sorry, you've exceeded your time. I'm going to ask you to wrap up your comments.
That is it. But maybe we should show our faces, because that's what we got elected to do.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Briones.
Mr. Diaz, if you have any comments at this time.
Yeah, I mean, where to start, right? With Mr. Padilla's comments here. I feel like, you've said enough with respect to the people who are going to hear this audio. I mean, wow. That's all I'm going to say for now. I'm going to stick to being the person who I am, of integrity. And, our Discord, I will talk to you like a man, like I have in the past, and we can practice our emotional maturity and talk this through like adults, because you're claiming you are, an adult, but we've tried that in the past, haven't we, Mr. Padilla? Anyway, to talk about district business, not personal discord, I'm gonna put us right back on track. My one thing that I want to talk about today was DACA. So DACA's come back, and I was hoping that through the district, we could send information, engage our parents or students to let them know either about renewals or applying, as we know that a lot of our students and family members are immigrants, myself included. I didn't get my citizenship until I was 18. And if I seem like I'm breaking up here, it's just like I'm trying to process all the information that Mr. Padilla said here. However, I think that if we could do that, and with the support of my colleagues, supporting, DACA, I think that's something that I would like to move forward with. So if everyone agrees with that, Dr. Zuniga, if we could, move forward with getting direction from the board and sending information out to the high school district, that would be great.
Yeah, if I may, I think that's a great idea to send out information to our families, informing them that DACA is open again for first-time applicants, and then providing them resources, both of the nonprofits in the area that are available to assist with applying for DACA, and then of course providing them contact information, maybe even hosting virtual workshops for them with some of those nonprofits. I would be open to that.
What about everyone else? Does that sound like a good idea? Mr. Padilla?
I support DACA. Not being born in this country and being an immigrant coming here when I was 5, I definitely support that program and stuff. And thank you for showing your face. I haven't seen your face for about, several months. I really appreciate that. When I talk to you, I want to see your face. I don't want to see a little picture. And if that offends you, I'm sorry.
Mr. Padilla, if we could stick to the discussion and leave the acrimonious comments aside. So simple yes or no for consensus is all that's necessary.
Right. So I'm giving my explanation on DACA. I'm sorry that you don't want to hear that I was an immigrant, but I feel exactly.
But go ahead.
Well, you referred to my comments as acrimonious. And so, again, I was telling you that I'm an immigrant and that I very much appreciate DACA. I believe that these kids need to be allowed a position to gain citizenship. And so I'm very much in support of DACA, and I'm glad that we won those 2 seats in Georgia. And so now that maybe we will be able to move that agenda forward so that we can support these kids on a path to citizenship. So my answer is absolutely yes, Mr. Diaz.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Padilla. Salcedo?
Yeah, my support.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Diaz, any other items you'd like to bring up?
No, I guess, I'm going to, I'd love to talk to, actually, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, but Mr. Padilla, don't take this as a lecture. I'm just going to say that there's I've learned this thing between intent and impact. And I think that, I hear what you say about us being bullies, you being a bully, etc. But I just want you to recognize there's a difference between intent and impact. So I think you continue to bring this up. And so I'm going to move to censure Mr. Padilla with respect to his bullying tactics. He continues to engage in, if you wonder why we haven't selected you to be vice president or president, it's because of the way you act. It's not a secret. So I'm going to move to censure Ricardo Padilla for his bullying.
So at this time, is that something that you want to bring forward for discussion at a future meeting? This discussion on censure of a trustee member?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we need legal counsel to weigh on it or formalize it as an agenda item, but
well, at this time, I think just asking for consensus is all that's necessary. You can bring it up as an agenda item, and I can talk to legal and Dr. Zuniga what the process would be. But first, we need consensus from the rest of the board if that's something that they want to move forward with.
Okay, let's do that then.
So either Mr. Padilla, Mr. Salcedo, Mrs. Torres de Seigres, if you guys want to chime in. I'll start with Mrs. Torres de Seigres. If you have any comments, or if you are in agreement with the recommendation or the request.
But my recommendation is that we have to talk more about the most important part here is why Mr. Padilla hasn't been the president. That is one of the things that it also bothers me a lot, because there is no reason. I don't agree that his behavior has been doing what a board member has to do, defend the students.
So the request is by Mr. Diaz to have this item brought up for discussion at a future meeting. If you're in agreement.
It is necessary. No, I don't agree that we have to discuss this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Padilla?
The answer is absolutely no. And this is an example of how you guys will bully once again. And that's what you did for the presidency. Somebody would move, okay, then one of you would second, and then you'd have your 3 votes. So this is a prime example of how you continue to do that. So for Mr. Diaz to try to turn the tables on me and tell me that I'm the one that's being bullied, you know what? I don't think so. I don't think so. And one of the things that I'm showing my students is that you don't get to just sit there and say nothing. Eventually, you have to speak up, okay? And I hope that Mr. Salcedo is really thinking about it, because, Mr. David Diaz will move, you'll second it, and then you guys will go in for the kill, and then you get what you want. Go ahead. If that's what you want to engage in and you think that's going to improve or keep me from speaking my mind and speaking for the children of this community and speaking for, English language learners and parents and everything that I do, let me remind all of you on this board, okay? I won an election and I won re-election. So if I won re-election and I won re-election for 5 years, why? Because at that time, not only did you bully me, but you also bullied Ms. Estela Torres de Seigres, and you forced us to have an election for money that this district did not have to waste. And you threw us to an election, and Mrs. Torres de Seigres lost, but I didn't lose. And you guys have always resented that, okay? And so if I got reelected for 5 years, that means that I have a base that listens to me and appreciates that I'm not a rubber stamper and that I do speak my mind. And I don't worry about elections. Elections always handle themselves. And if that makes Mr. Diaz uncomfortable, well, that's something that he's going to have to deal with. But he tried once in another school board meeting, he tried to get me to be quiet, and he called legal counsel on me. And I don't know if he remembers, but he asked Christine Hsu, the legal counsel, and asked, can a school board member ask as many questions as he wants during a school board meeting? And he said, can you please put that in our Friday board meeting, Mr. Dr. Zuniga? And I told Mr. Diaz, we don't need to wait for a Friday memo. We have legal counsel here right now. So why don't we get legal counsel to answer that question? Legal counsel answered that question and told him that a school board member can ask as many questions as they want. And I told Mr. Diaz at that time, Mr. Diaz, the fact that I'm a school board member and I'm a trustee does not mean that I leave my First Amendment right at the door. Before I'm a school board member, I am an American citizen that has First Amendment rights. And I told Mr. Diaz and I told you, Mr. Briones, do not try to suppress my speech because you're going down a slippery slope. And legal counsel made it clear to you that a board member can ask as many questions as they want. And that was the first time that you guys threw legal counsel on me. The second time that you guys threw legal counsel on me was when we went to court with the former superintendent. Let me tell you that I was—
Mr. Padilla, if you could limit your comments to this discussion item, please. The question is if you support the motion.
Because speaking to your bullying, I got cross-examined on the witness stand by my own legal counsel in Superior Court. They try to bully me. They try to discredit my name. They try to discredit me and my name as Mr. Padilla. I have worked really hard, okay, to have a good name for myself, and I'm an excellent role model to many kids. And I've been around for close to 28 years, okay? And so I take offense when somebody tries to smear me or attack me and say that, you know, I'm a bad person. I'm sorry, but I think the voters of this community have shown you once and have shown you twice that they appreciate what I say here, and that my speech will not be suppressed by you, Mr. Briones, by you, Mr. Salcido, or by you, Mr. Diaz. And I hope that Mr. Salcido has a little backbone and speaks up and does not allow for this bullying to continue to happen. Because as a principal, he and I deal with bullying every day. Every single day, there's always students that are dealing with this problem. So I hope that tonight he has a little backbone and he ends all this nonsense and all this bullying that you guys have engaged in against me. So that's my 2 cents, Mr. Briones. Quit being bullies.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Padilla. Mr. Salcedo, do you want to chime in?
Sure. I'm not one for anybody trying to project on me what I should do and what I should say. Okay, that's one. For the motion, number one, I don't have enough information what would constitute a censure. So I would like to propose instead to get information on what would constitute a censure. Okay, and then I don't know if I know Christine's online. If then we can I don't know, let her know or decide if that's going to go on the next agenda. But for right now, I just don't have enough information. But like I said, I'm not going to make a decision right now without having that information.
Thank you. So I'll chime in right now. I'm in agreement both with Mr. Diaz as well as Mr. Salcedo. As I don't appreciate the comments that Mr. Padilla has made in the past towards me or any other member of this board. While at the same time, I want to make sure that if we do move down this route, that we're doing it in the appropriate manner. So I will ask for Mr. Diaz to withdraw your motion and allow us to receive information from legal counsel on what the process would be, what could constitute a censure. And from my understanding, it's at our discretion, and it is in board policy. But if we get some information from legal counsel in our Friday memo to understand what the process is, and at our next meeting, whether it's a special meeting later this month or in February, we can revisit the item. And then at that time, if there's sufficient information and consensus, then we can move forward one way or the other.
Yeah, that sounds fine to me. I mean, you know, ultimately, you know, no one's trying to suppress Mr. Padilla. We all have rules that we're, you know, complying with equally, except for him. He seems to believe they don't apply to him. So yeah, let's get more information about what it means to censor and what needs to happen, right? I don't mind if it's a Friday memo or at the next meeting, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, oh, wait, I almost forgot. Dr. Zuniga, do you have any items?
No, I just wanted to let the board know. I'm not sure if you saw an information or message that went out on the district's behalf under my name regarding the response to today's unfortunate incidents in DC. I wanted to make sure that our school community was aware that we are paying close attention. We don't condone any type of violence, hatred, bigotry, anything. We know that this is a national level issue, but sometimes it hits home. We want to be sure our students remain safe, healthy, they get the support, because there's a lot of questions being asked by our students. I want to be sure that there's opportunities for our staff and our teachers specifically to allow that engagement, to take advantage of you know, a learning opportunity of what a democracy brings when we have a situation like this. So that message went out this afternoon to our staff, our students, and our families. That's it. Just one other item. I will also reiterate this in my memo on Friday. Some of you had the opportunity to visit the 2 sites for our adult transition site project that we're working on. If you still are interested or you have not a chance to visit both sites, and walk through with us, I recommend that you do. And if we will make any type of adjustment to schedules that you may have, if we can get more than one together, that's great. But we also will adapt to your schedule too. So Ms. Macias and Mr. Alatar and I are ready to assist you and also schedule whatever you need at this point. Okay, so I'll reach out to you guys in the memo again. I know I spoke to Mrs. Torres-Seegers a little bit about that already, and we'll be working with her to give her some more information about that too, that we already have provided to the board before she arrived. And that's about it. So reach out more information on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zuniga. I had a few items that I wanted to bring up. However, I'm going to dispense with them today, considering the events that took place today, both at the Washington, D.C., as well as in Sacramento and here locally in Los Angeles at City Hall. As elected representatives, each one of us takes an oath to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and for us specifically, the Constitution of the state of California. So it really made me extremely concerned and saddened to see members of our elected government, members of the House of Representatives, members of the U.S. Senate, and most pointedly, the President of the United States, take steps to encourage people to engage in acts that are treasonous, that constitute sedition against our republic. I take my oath very seriously. I don't pledge allegiance to an individual. I don't pledge allegiance to an ideology. I don't pledge allegiance to a political party. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to this republic. And it really frightens me to see the level of hate, the level of hostility, and the violence that took place today in Washington, D.C. Against our government, and the hateful and insidious language used by our president encouraging this activity. And again, the language that was used after the events took place that did not call for it to stop. That still, the president still used language that encouraged those individuals. And most frighteningly, that the president continues to repeat lies that have been disproven and discredited time and time again. Lawsuit after lawsuit that has been tossed out, that has been that they've lost in state courts, in federal appeals courts, even at the U.S. Supreme Court. The fact of the matter is that our country, our institutions are under attack. Our republic is founded on free and open elections, and that's what we've gone through. And not since the Civil War have we not had peaceful transition of power from one administration to the next. And it truly frightens me that this language is not being called to stop by every single member of both the House and the U.S. Senate. And it frightens me to think what else can transpire between now and January 20th, when President-elect Joe Biden takes the oath of office, and even past that date, because there are individuals in this country who will continue to listen to the current president and his baseless claims and conspiracy theories. So I just want to leave everyone tonight with this thought that our actions, our words have consequences. And as it relates to the discussion that we had here tonight, just now, those words carry a lot of weight, and our actions carry a lot of weight. And behavior like that, whether it's considered bullying in your eyes or not, is completely unacceptable. We need to model appropriate behavior as elected representatives. We need to stand by and uphold the oath that we took to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, and ensure that what we ask of others, we do ourselves. So I ask everyone tonight to please take a moment to think about what our country is going through, to think about the words that you say and the actions that you take and the repercussions that may result because of those words or actions. So at this time, we will recess into closed session. Legal counsel, if you can read us in.
Thank you, Board President Briones. Closed session tonight is pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, D2 and E1, potential litigation, conference with legal counsel, 2 matters. I don't know if there are any public comments submitted for any of the closed session items.
I did not receive any public comments for closed session items. Dr. Zuniga, do you have any comments, public comments?
No public comment for closed session at this time.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll take a short recess. We'll be back at 8:20. We'll reconvene we'll recess into closed session. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in a bit. All right, welcome back, everyone. At this time, we're going to reconvene into a regular session. Legal counsel, if you want to report out from closed session.
Thank you. For the closed session items, direction was given, no action was taken.
Thank you, legal counsel. At this time, if there's no objection, it is now 8:52 p.m. and we will adjourn tonight's meeting. Everyone, please be well and stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Everyone.